there's an epidemic, I would say, of men who used to be fearless rebels turning into simpering wimps. Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks, you may have seen him going at it with Elon Musk of late about how much he loves diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's unbelievable to see. Howard Stern used to be the most rebellious person in media, I would say. Maybe the most fearless. Always under investigation from the FCC. Tons of different issues. I know you're not a fan, Buck.
I just give him a look and he knows. Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of his work. I was listening
but
to Rush.
I would say in the modern era of radio, defined as the last 40 years, let's say, 2 generations, the 2 most iconic radio people are Rush Limbaugh and Howard Stern for most people out there who follow media. We're obviously honored to sit here and continue the legacy of Rush. Howard Stern has become everything that Howard Stern would have hated in the 90s and the early 2000s. He's become fearful. He's become woke. He's afraid of what his jokes are going to lead to. He isn't honest with his audience anymore. And COVID really seems to have broken him. He hasn't basically left his New York apartment for 4 years now. He's constantly angry at anyone around him who's not wearing a mask. He's gotten 8 different boosters. He missed his entire show last week, Buck. Why did he miss his show? Because he got COVID. He has no idea how that was possible. I believe we have audio of Howard Stern, who wanted I've got a couple of different clips that are interesting because I think this is worth playing. Remember, he wanted everybody fired if they wouldn't get the COVID shot. He wanted all sorts of seriously draconian penalties. But first, let's listen to Howard Stern talk about the fact that he got COVID, and he has no idea how it happened.
We were supposed to be on the air last week. We were not here because I got COVID-19. Finally. It's not fair, I know. Your hero wasn't supposed to get it. But holy did I get it. First of all, I want to say a couple of things. It's impossible that I got COVID. I haven't been anywhere. I didn't go anywhere. I did go to my mother's, but I wore a mask the entire time.
And she doesn't have COVID.
She does not have COVID. And there were 2 people I saw. One was my assistant, and the other one was a guy who drives me. And they both are negative. They did not have COVID. I saw them without a mask on. Other than that, I saw no one. And
Really?
Unfortunately, not only did I get COVID, but I gave it to my wife.
Can I just say,
Okay.
Clay? Okay, first of all, he clearly didn't take the virus seriously. Only 8
Correct.
shots? Only 8 shots?
And still masking.
Still masking? Was he double masking? Was he wearing goggles? What about gloves? I think that clearly he didn't take, and also he didn't genuflect to the vaccine as is required. You are supposed to genuflect and say, yes, I have COVID, even though I got 8 shots, but I am thankful to be boosted, and boosted because now I'm just really sick as opposed to being really sick.
And, Buck, this is important, okay? So Howard Stern, 8 COVID shots, whatever it is, the 2 original, like 5 or 6 boosters, still wearing a mask, has no idea how he got it. Look, everybody's going to get COVID. If you're out there and you say, well, I never got it, you probably had it. You just didn't know because it was such a low-level issue for you as it is for most people. Here is, I've got 2 clips that I want to play just in the wake of this. This is on September 7th, 2021 on his show. Howard Stern laughed at an anti-vax radio host who died, said makes vaccines mandatory, F them, F their freedom. This was Howard Stern, September 2021.
It's really funny when the radio guys are the best. There were like 4 of them died. 4 of them who were like ranting on the air, they will not get vaccinated. They were on fire, these guys. It was like day after day, they were all dying. And then their dying words are, I wish I had been more into the vaccine. I wish I had taken it. And they're on the radio preaching this. I tell you what, as far as I remember, when I went to school, you had to get a measles vaccine. You had to get a mumps vaccine. There was a ton of them you got. When are we going to stop putting up with the idiots in this country and just say, it's mandatory to get vaccinated? F them, f their freedom. I want my freedom to live.
I mean, I can't imagine anybody who believes in not even just freedom, but like rational discourse. For me, anyone who takes the position that Howard Stern in there, it's a total deal breaker. I never want to hear anything they have to say on anything again because their judgment is so rotten and so corrupt that it's worthless to me. I don't want to hear what he has to say on anything. And by the way, I mean, I also never did particularly want to hear what he has to say, but that's a different conversation.
Imagine gloating over somebody who got a virus and
died,
enjoying the fact that they died.
Yeah, that person has family. That person has loved ones. It's funny to Howard Stern. That's
especially now that you got COVID yourself. Here's another clip. I think this is important. Here's another clip. This is March 23rd of 2022. Howard Stern furious that the mask mandate was lifted. The wackos are winning.
Then you get all these wackos with their anti-mask, anti-vaccine. The reason they've lifted these mask mandates is because we gave in to this small minority of people who are completely out of their mind, who think masks are some sort of prison sentence and their freedoms are being taken away.
The government is tired of fighting with people who want to get sick and die.
Yeah, there's so many wackos. I miss the old Republican Party. It used to be nice to have a two-party system. Now it's wackos versus, Democrats, and I can't help but think
wackos. I mean, I can't even. Why are we even? Dude, he's so wrong. It's pathetic. I mean, he's like a neurotic and emotionally unstable old man here talking nonsense. We were right, meaning Republicans, meaning you and me. Actually, Clay and I met because we both were like, "Hey, masks. We all know that doesn't work, right? It doesn't work." And all the peer-reviewed studies and the Cochrane study and everything that you can actually look at shows it does not work. Full stop. And yet Howard Stern. Has he apologized to everybody for calling them wackos?
No, and look, to me, this is important because everything that he did for 4 years was worthless. He said that he got COVID and he had a really bad case of COVID. Now, you're right. He probably at some point is going to genuflect at the altar of the COVID shot and say, boy, if I hadn't gotten these 8 shots, I would have died. It's not true, likely, because it doesn't seem like he's in awful shape. I think he turned 70 this week. I actually looked it up because I was curious how old he was. But he's still masking. And to me, this is interesting. He's having everybody around him tested, and he has no idea how he got sick. You know what that sounds like? Almost how everybody gets sick historically. Right? Sometimes you can be like, oh, my spouse was sick, coughing, sneezing, I got it. A lot of the time you get sick and you have no idea where you actually got sick because life, as we move about in our daily existence, comes with risks. And so everything that this ignoramus did for 4 years to try to keep himself from ever getting COVID, he still got COVID, and he gave up 4 years of normal life in the process. And along the way, he was awful. He was venal. He ridiculed people who got sick. He told people that he was doing the right thing and he was taking all these precautions. And Howard Stern, there are a lot of Howard Sterns out there. There are millions of people who have lived their lives these way. And the people that I feel the worst for, I still see it, Buck. I still see 2-year-olds having to put masks on because their parents are morons. Every time I'm at the airport and I just look at that little kid and I just think to myself, my God, this is child abuse. I feel so awful that your parent is such an imbecile that you are being forced as a young child uncomfortably to be walking around with a mask on that does absolutely nothing to protect you. And right and wrong still matters. And this comes back to, are there going to be any consequences for people who were wrong on everything?
No. Unfortunately, the answer is no. And unfortunately, most people, it seems, want to move past the COVID situation. So we can try to hold people accountable for it, but it won't even be a top 5 or I would even say top 10 issue going into this election. That's it, which is a shame. But what you realize is that people are resistant to change in their beliefs, and they're very resistant to admit that they were wrong. And so it's a sound political strategy to either ignore or just push on as though you were right the whole time, which is what everybody advocating for masks and mandatory COVID vaccination and lockdowns and all of it. Isn't Fauci today on Capitol Hill, He was on Capitol Hill. Wasn't he testifying like
I don't know
today?
if it was yesterday or I think he said he
yesterday.
couldn't remember like 100
That's right.
different times. So I don't know that there was very much that came out of that so far. And I don't know if it's a multi-day testimony that he's going to be involved in. But I saw the headline and read an article last night that he had said he couldn't recall 100 different times, despite the fact that in many different he's writing a book right now about right? Didn't he sign a big book deal where he's going to talk about his entire career and how much he remembers about so many different details? It's amazing how often you don't recall things that are damaging to you.
I should offer to do the audiobook for him. I will do it, but at the bottom I will throw in, hey, everything I am saying is a lie on every page. Just so you know, this is all bull crap, and I am a selfish and narcissistic imbecile.
Do you think when Fauci goes on his book tour that everybody's going to have to be masked? No matter, I mean, I think the book comes out in the fall. Is everybody going to be? It's right in the cold and flu season. Is he going to shake hands? Is he going to pose for photos?
Clay, because of the science, it would be preferable if at Fauci book tour stops, people had at least an N95 strapped to their face and cloth mask in front of the N95 mask, and then perhaps a glass or plastic partition.
Will they check for COVID shots? I mean, I just generally would love to see the Fauci book guidance as he goes on tour. And also, this is true, right? I mean, wouldn't he have to fill a huge percentage of the people that go to get Fauci's autograph? And by the way, don't even get me started on the people who are buying Fauci's book. They're going to have masks on in the line. Like, this is the biggest collection of losers potentially that has ever existed.
We should get, this isn't really our thing, but we should tell some of our conservative friends out there who do this kind of stuff that they should show up at Fauci book events and just tell everybody, like, all right, everybody, for your safety, 6 feet apart, plastic partitions, double mask, and if possible, put a plastic bag over your head as well, just for the extra droplets.
All right, I got one for you, Buck. Here's a promise to the audience. If Dr. Fauci comes to Nashville on his book tour,
you're going
in a full hazmat suit, I will go and stand in line for Dr. Fauci's autograph we'll have to get me a full hazmat suit, and I'm going to take the science very seriously.
They won't know it's you. You're just a concerned COVID citizen.
That's what I'm saying. I'm going to go in a hazmat suit to get the Fauci book.